Hello, everyone. My name is Cole Gomez, and I am a graduate student at Ball State University. Today, we are going to be talking about functional behavior assessments, FBAs, and functional analysis, FAs, including what each of them are, what they consist of, and when to implement each of them. A little bit about myself. I have been in the field of applied behavioral analysis for approximately 3 to 4 years now. I wouldn't say that I always knew that I wanted to go into ABA. However, with gaining experience during my undergrad years, I truly fell in love with ABA making a meaningful difference in the lives of others. I'm currently employed at Building Blocks Pediatric Therapy, which is located in Michigan, and I'm a lead RBT. This is where I've worked in a collaborative setting with other disciplines such as speech therapy and occupational therapy for the past 2 years now. My future plans upon graduation from Ball State University at the end of this semester include sitting for the BCBA exam and passing. I really find a lot of joy working in a clinical setting, so I hope to continue this as I move throughout my career. Additionally, my end goal is to open a clinic or two of my own, which will offer not only ABA services, but other services such as speech, OT, and PT, and also providing some sort of outreach or educational service that works in conjunction to the communities that I serve. To educate others about autism and ways in which we can be more inclusive and accepting. I would not say that I have a lot of experience completing a full FBA or at all completing an FA. Most of my experience has been within my coursework here at Ball State and not so much hands-on within my field experience. I've done bits and pieces, but I've never actually completed a full FBA. For instance, like I've collected ABC data, or I've done like interviews with parents, but I've never gone through a full thing. So moving on, it's important that we understand what is a problem behavior. So both FBAs and FAs are conducted in order to address a problem behavior. This is any behavior that hinders a client's or others' ability to learn or puts themselves or others in danger. As applied behavioral analysis continues to grow and learn, the term problem behavior is becoming less used, and instead analysts are seeking to use terms such as target behavior or mismatch behavior, which provide the same meaning as it would for problem behavior. So for the purposes of this presentation, we will not be using the term problem behavior, and instead we'll be using the term target behavior. When looking at behavior, Cooper et al. 2020 expresses that there's 4 functions of behavior. This includes escape, attention, tangibles, and sensory. And a quick little acronym to remember that is EATS. An example of attention would be when a BT is not looking in the direction of a client. The client then engages in self-injurious behavior, for instance, and then the BT provides attention to the client, and then the client stops engaging in that self-injurious behavior, or SIB. An example of the tangible function would be when a client wants a cookie, they start to engage in screaming, and the caregiver provides the client with a cookie, which stops the screaming. Next, an example of the escape function would be when the client is asked to clean their room. They engage in a tantrum behavior, and then the demand is removed, which then results in them stopping their tantrum. Lastly, the sensory function may look like a client is engaging in stimming, so maybe they're flapping their hands or something like that, which is to provide comfort and like regulation of their own bodies. Additionally, sensory may look like a client removing all of their clothes because they become overly hot or the texture of their clothes is uncomfortable. Starting with a functional behavior assessment, FBA, this is an assessment that creates hypothesized statements about the functions of behavior as it relates to specific environmental events and behaviors. The goal of an FBA is to obtain information about the purpose, function that the behavior serves. Functional behavior assessments can be conducted in multiple ways. Here we have a visual from the Cooper book that kind of breaks that down. So starting with indirect methods, we can obtain information through various means such as interviews, checklists, rating scales, and questionnaires. In terms of descriptive methods, we can collect information through direct observation and ABC data. And then lastly, we have our functional analysis, which we will learn more about in a little bit. An FBA is a more preferred method of use within my clinic as a means of first considering to do over an FA, as we want to try to avoid having to purposely create conditions with the intention of evoking the target behavior to occur. Although my clinic has not necessarily conducted all portions of a full FBA, I would consider that the steps to conducting the FBA would be to first identify what the target behavior is. So for instance, if I'm looking at a behavior screaming, I will want to identify an operational definition with examples and non-examples in order for it to be clear and in terms that are both observable and measurable. Then I would want to take the data and gather information that I can. And this can be done through like ABC data, direct observations, interviews, etc. And then upon completing this, I would then look for patterns of the target behavior occurring in certain instances in order to work on the next step, which is to develop those hypothesized function statements or statement. Lastly, I would implement strategies and interventions based on the hypothesized function and then continue to collect data during this time in order to determine if the intervention has an effect of decreasing the screaming behavior. And then furthermore, based on the data that I collect during the intervention, I will determine if the intervention is effective or needs to be reevaluated. All in all, an FBA may be a lengthy process, and the time to complete it may vary depending on what you may need and the availability and schedules to gather such information. Here we have examples of direct and indirect methods of an FBA. On our left, we have what is called a FAST or functional analysis screening tool. This method of analysis can be given to a technician, a parent, or a caregiver to fill out and return to the BCBA in order to create a hypothesized function of behavior. Additionally, to my right is just one example of an ABC chart that I've created and have implemented at my clinic. ABC stands for antecedent, behavior, and consequence. Antecedent describes what is happening before the behavior occurs. Then, of course, the behavior section is what the behavior is. So, for example, tantrum, hitting, spitting, etc. And then consequence is what occurs after the behavior. And this may be something that can be considered as a maintaining contingency potentially, meaning because of this result, the behavior continues to occur in the future. ABC data is considered a direct observation method because it requires the assessor to observe the behavior occurring and then write down the information that will later be analyzed by the BCBA. Next, we are going to talk about what is a functional analysis or FA. According to Lloyd et al. 2016, a functional analysis is an analysis to identify the relations between a target behavior and an environmental variable or variables. Additionally, FAs are conducted in a contrived environment. Within an FA, there are 4 conditions, including play, contingent attention, contingent escape, and contingent tangible. On the next slide, we will discuss how the Cooper book addresses these conditions. Typically, I have been told by my supervising BCBAs that an FA is something to only consider if an FBA is unable to provide adequate information about the function of a behavior, stating that FAs may have some controversy as to the ethicality of purposefully evoking a target behavior. I can see both sides of this, and it's something that is that should be heavily contemplated when considering to implement, and parent permission should be provided, especially if the behavior is more severe. So here is a visual that explains antecedent conditions and consequences for each condition within an FA. Please take a moment to pause the video and read, and then unpause, and I will be able to give you some examples for each condition. Okay, so assuming you paused and read through each condition, let's start with the first condition, which is the play condition. An example of this would be providing the client with all their favorite toys, interacting with them and not giving an instruction to the client, such as let's clean up. If the client engages in a target behavior such as headbanging, the assessor is to continue on and not provide attention to the behavior, such as saying like, oh no, don't do that. They may provide neutral redirection, such as modeling tapping on the shoulder. Next, in the contingent attention condition, the client may be engaged in their preferred toys and activities, but the assessor is not engaging with the client. The client then engages in a target behavior of headbanging, and in return, the assessor provides attention to the client, and the client stops headbanging. Looking at the contingent escape condition, the assessor may ask the client to begin cleaning up their table, and as a response, the client begins to engage in headbanging. The assessor then removes the demand to clean up and cleans up the items on the table, therefore removing the task materials, and does not provide any other prompts to complete the task of cleaning up. So essentially, the client will stop engaging in the target behavior. In the contingent tangible condition, the client may be engaged with a specific toy or activity and the assessor removes it. The client will then begin engaging in that target behavior of headbanging. And then as a response, the assessor provides the client with a preferred toy or activity again, and then the client stops headbanging. In the last condition, the alone condition, the client is placed in a room by themselves with nothing inside. The client then begins to headbang. As a response, the assessor will ignore the behavior, and they may model knocking on the door. My questions for the class include: what experience do you have implementing a complete FBA or FA within your environmental setting in which you work? Do you find this is not something that is done often, or do you come into contact with this on a pretty regular basis? My second question is, how do you handle conducting an FA in terms of ensuring that you are not causing more harm to the client by purposefully evoking a specific behavior? And lastly, what other indirect forms or assessments do you use that you have found to be really insightful in determining a function and or creating a hypothesized function of behavior? I look forward to hearing some responses and some more insight. Have a great day.